Yo, call me a USB, I'm a stick it. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Games Kids. Today, and only today, we are here to talk about the perception of Sonic when you are young versus when you are older, right? And I've wanted to make this video for a while because it's something I often think about, right? And I figured, why not discuss it with you guys? Because I know a lot of my audience tends to skew around the people that have grown up with Sonic a lot more. And I know there's some younger people out there, but it is technically a lot more for the people that I'm just fascinated to see where your head's at with it. And obviously, if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to your boy and support the content. Now, let's get right into it. So, when it comes to Sonic the Hedgehog, it's a series that is for everyone, right? In the same way that you have a series, you know, like Mario or SpongeBob that people love all over the world, or your Mickey Mouse or whatever. They're meant to appeal to a wide range of audience. But Sonic has always attempted to add this bit of an edge, right? Where it tries, at least, to have cool character moments and cool story moments. Whereas, you know, Mario is always going to be wahoo yippee guy. Obviously, unless you play the RPGs where you get a lot more character development for stuff there. But for the most part, right, when it comes to Sonic, he's always had a bit of that edge, right? And I feel like consuming the games and series when you're younger and older feel like they change a lot, because it's also a series that has been so turbulent, right? We're talking about a series that has had so many up and downs, right? It's not like Mario, where I feel like every 3D Mario, for the most part, hits it right on the head. You know, frame one right away does it right. Sonic has had a lot more 3D games and a lot more hits and misses in between. And because of that, when people consume those games, changes a lot about how people feel about them. Let's start, for example, with the classics, right? For me, I remember growing up with the original 3 Sonic games. I never beat them. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, when I was a young kid, I could not beat those games. They were games that I would play, laugh with, I think at most was Sonic 2. I got to the final boss, but I just couldn't beat the final boss. I couldn't beat the giant death egg robot, right? I was stuck there. And back then, you would die and you would restart a whole zone, you would restart a whole level or whatever, and it would be frustrating. I wouldn't beat those games. It really wasn't until, what, I want to say maybe the DS era, around, when I had computer and also my DS, everything with the ports of side, that I really got in and I played through those games, right? Because I feel like they are more difficult when you're younger and they're less forgiving, right? Whereas, for example, kids today, right, or anyone today can play Sonic Origins, right? And they'll get a way different experience with the classics, right? Because they have those tokens that allows them to do infinite replays of a level. You have so many more chances to experience the game so much differently than a lot of us did back then. Like, I remember just suffering through so many of those games back then. Dude, the idea of collecting all the Chaos Emeralds back then was a miracle. Like, you genuinely had to be so good at those games to want to bear getting those Chaos Emeralds in those special stages. Because really, if you were losing, you were kicked out of the special stage, there was no going back. And you had to pray that in the next level, you either got the 50 rings or you found the secret big ring in one of the original Sonic games. Like, it was bad back then. It was so rare to experience the supersonic moments. Even a game like Sonic Adventure, dude, when I was a young kid and I played Sonic Adventure on the GameCube, right, I never got the secret ending with supersonic, right? I had seen clips of it on the internet later on in my life, and it wasn't really until when I maybe got a PC, like later in my teenage years, that I beat all the campaigns, get supersonic. Otherwise, like, that was not something I was doing, because when I was younger, the cat missions didn't make sense to me, and I think that was honestly it. I think when I was younger, the cat missions were the only things that stopped me, because I was able to get through Knuckles levels, Amy's, Gammas and Sonic and all, and Tails, but I was not able to do, Big the Cats. I think a lot of people still could struggle with that, but at least when you're older, you can look up what to do or see what you got to do, and I think I'm getting into the weeds here, right? But when you consume these games when you're younger, feel like there's that sort of disconnect, right? Because Sonic games, I feel like, are inherently a little harder to get into, right? They're not as straightforward as a Mario, especially the older ones. I feel like the older Sonics definitely suffer a bit more through that. Even a game like Sonic Adventure 2 that I love with my life, dude, God, the Knuckles stages as a kid were like a nightmare. Again, I didn't even get to experience Supersonic in that game until I was a little bit older, maybe. I think when I got the PC port of Adventure 2 back in the day, right? But it's like, it took a while for me to experience that, right? But at the same time, I remember going to a friend's house and seeing the Supersonic fight and experiencing that from him, and I was like, this is awesome, right? And also, when you're a kid, you are so much more easy to satisfy, right? So even when you couldn't beat a game, you felt that satisfaction of being able to at least play it, and in your mind, that was enough, right? Like, I remember for the longest time when I was younger, right, I remember playing playing Sonic, what was it? Sonic Shadow the Hedgehog, sorry. And I loved it, right? I thought it was awesome back in the day. I remember, oh my God, I can go do this level, I can go do this level, I could just do this, right? And I could go do this thing here, this objective, and I would just spend forever in a level looking for something as a kid. And I was like cool with that, right? I play when I'm older, I'm like, oh my God, bro. Some of these shadow levels are obnoxious. Obviously, you have the one in the space calling the arc with Maria that's notorious, but some of those missions are hell to go through, right? But at least when you're older, you can be like, damn, I'm just gonna choose which experience I want to go through, right? But you're a little more critical of the journey, right? The story doesn't make too much sense. But again, when you're younger, you don't really care about that. You just see a cool cutscene and you think something's cool, and I think that's enough. And I think that's what carries so much of Sonic. The more I think about it, is because he's just so cool, people were able to perceive things a little bit differently than you would assume. Like, I think about Sonic 06, right? Sonic 06 is a prime example of this, where, yeah, and this is also like a generational thing that's really different. When 06 came out, I want to say what I was 10 years old, and everyone hated the game. It was the meme game. It was not great. I remember even playing it at my friend's house and seeing how broken it was. I feel like 06 is the first time I saw, damn, a video game cannot be, you know, working. I remember the first time as a kid noticing that, right? But now we're going to, you know, different times where people that grew up in the 2000s and 06 was their childhood game, we're seeing a lot of those people show up and be like, damn, I love 06. That was my childhood, you know? And I feel like that's how you get stuff like Project 06. That's how you get a lot of fans championing the game, because when you're younger, most people don't care that a game was broken or not. They just, it's the game they remember as a kid, right? Goo goo gaga, you know, lights, flashing colors, you know, moving fast, doing cool moves. You're seeing Shadow, you're seeing Sonic. Like, it felt cool, and that's really all that mattered to people, right? And that's such a big aspect of Sonic that falls into a game like Unleash, right? I remember Sonic Unleash came out, well, I was 12 or 13 at the time or something, and everyone hated it. Like, everyone did not like that game. They obviously loved the intro and everything, but the Werehog was a joke, right? But now that people are older, like the fans especially are older, and have been able to go back to that game, or ones that have been, you know, and you can experience like, oh shit, like now I understand a moveset, right? Like, I'm doing these cool moves, I can use these cool combos, I can level up this aspect of the Werehog and everything. You're like, damn, bro, I'm consuming this shit way differently now. Like, I am genuinely enjoying this because I can enjoy the combat system of the Werehog, right? And run through those levels, and then I could do crazy cool shit in the daytime levels. And that's like another aspect where things differ depending on, you know, the age when you consume them. Same thing with like a show like Sonic X. I think of Sonic X, right, when I watched it when I was younger, I always thought it was the coolest thing ever, right? And still to this day, in my mind, in my soul, I have that feeling. Like, Sonic X is so cool, right? But then you go back and you rewatch it, right? You realize how much, you know, filler there is, how much of Chris Thorndike there is, you know, how much, obviously, like in the 4 Kids dub, they, you know, butcher a lot of the story, right? And a lot of that, the animation, God, the animation sometimes gets rough in Sonic X. But again, when you're young, you don't think about that stuff, right? You have never, when you were younger, you didn't think about Sonic's quill length, you know, you didn't think about the animation frames of this series, you didn't think of that. And you gotta understand, obviously I want everything Sonic related to be peak and perfect, right? But younger people that experience these things don't notice nor care. They just think of the thing they just did or experienced, and that's all that matters, right? But I do understand that Sonic is a series that has sauce, and a lot of us grew up with, and we want to see that continue and grow with us, right? Like, I cannot believe that a kid today got to experience Sonic Frontiers as their first Sonic game. Like, that's insane to me, right? Like, I can't even process that, right? That your first Sonic experience in 3D could have been Frontiers. And someone one day in 10, 20 years is going to be like, dude, Frontiers is immaculate. You're going to see the video essays about people that was their childhood game. Like, and what a place to start, because you're getting some insane music, you're getting some insane boss fights, you're getting an open zone Sonic game. Like, the way even people are growing up with these are completely different. I mean, a kid's gonna grow up with an open world game effectively, right? As opposed to us who grew up, you know, in these little hallways, right? You know, even Sonic, you could argue like Sonic Adventure to Sonic Frontiers is very paralleled, right? Like, back in the day, say Station Square felt like an open world. It felt massive, right? Whereas, you know, you play it now and you're like, okay, well, you're in one of these little lobbies of Station Square for 3 seconds max, right? Or 3 to 5 seconds max, but it was a playground, right? And I think Frontiers, what I love about it is it feels like that playground again. It feels like adventure in a lot of ways, right? And just so you know, the day and night cycles they have in there, you know, just the platforming, it has that energy to it. And obviously, the internet is such a massive part of disconnect there. And well, to be fair, connect and disconnect, because I feel like Sonic content has been prevalent online for a while. I know Chow Mix recently did a video about, you know, how the 2010s really ruined Sonic because of all the video essays. But even beyond that, I would just say talking about Sonic and consuming when you're older is so much different, because I think when you're older, you have a bit more fascination with games, especially if you love games, you know, especially if you're like us here and you're watching channels like this, right? The only reason you're at the level where you're watching a video like this is because you care enough to understand this stuff, right? And we always talk about, you know, how levels feel, how physics feel, how individual worlds feel, how, hey, Sonic, you know, it moves differently in this game versus this game. Did they reuse this animation? Is this an animation that they should use? Oh man, this move is incredible. Like, it's these little things that people want to analyze, right? And I think when you're older, you just want to consume more of the thing you love. I think you want to understand it better. Now, part of it is because sometimes you want some justification, right? I think a lot of times we'll watch something like that. Oh yeah, no, that I understand that feeling, right? And seeing someone convey that feels good, right? But at the same time, I think, you know, when you're older, you demand a bit more from what you consume. Obviously, everyone's a little different. You know, I always call myself a little more easy to please, even though obviously I can tell when something bothers me and doesn't. But, you know, I like watching videos about, you know, Sonic's characterization in the past versus present. I like watching videos about, you know, how Sonic's levels designs are, whether it's the boost formula or this formula. But when you're younger, you're just kind of playing these things, and there is a fascination to it. On the flip side, I know a lot of people that are younger and hated Sonic, right, and treated it as a joke, but the people that loved Sonic and grew up with it loved it, right? And even like I think of a game that I've notoriously hated, even when I reviewed it, Sonic Heroes, right? I don't like Sonic Heroes. I think has a lot of problems, but damn, is it a cool fucking game, right? When you really thinking about it, you have team attacks, you have the team working together, you have banger music, you have these really unique levels in terms of their art direction and how they're designed. And I'm like, damn, bro, like, even if I hate this shit, I can't deny this shit's kind of cool, right? But also, like, I can't imagine the flip side, right? Well, actually, I can, because I've seen a lot of videos about it, right? There's a lot of people that play Sonic when they're older, and they go back to these old games and they just can't do it. You know, I've seen so many people I know and care about not understand Sonic. You know what I'm saying? I've even showed you that video where, you know, I was playing with Aru, or even, you know, there's a lot of times I sit down and play with my friends and calls, and I show them like Sonic games and they just don't get it, right? Whereas I feel like Mario is so different, where people just get it. I feel like Sonic needs to click with you. There's one more tier of skill / you know, understanding of Sonic that, you know, makes you want to love it or not love it, because it's fast, right? The whole idea is you're going fast, and obviously you need sharp reflexes to really enjoy those games at their peak, right? But it does demand a lot out of you too, right? These are games that, you know, they're not just you play through the levels and you're out, right? A game like Sonic Adventure 2, for example, demands a lot out of you, because you don't just get to play as Sonic, you got to do these Knuckles levels, or you're hunting for the emeralds. You got to play as the Tails mech levels. You know, it's almost like you got to earn the Sonic levels in there. But regardless, I mean, I think about a game like Sonic Superstars, right? The bosses drive me crazy, right? Especially some of the later ones, right? They're not actually, I would say a lot of them are just kind of repeated moves, and the final boss drives me insane. Whereas when you're younger, you don't think about that, right? And I'm telling you, a game like Sonic Superstars, just give it 10 years. You know, people are going to say, like, I grew up with this game. I love this game. You know, and that's a game that's important to me, right? In the same way we want adventure remakes and all this, I'm telling you, man, give it 10, 20 years. People are going to say that about, you know, a lot of games, right? You're going to see Sonic Lost World people that show up one day and want, like, a remaster of that with new content and moves. I mean, we already see that with some fans, but you are gonna see, right? And in the same way, I always say one that always fascinates me, Sonic Boom. Sonic Boom on streaming services is massive. I think Netflix or somebody reported recently that, like, in the last year, it got like 50 million more views or something. Like, it's insane how, you know, that show is big in terms of just a kid-friendly watch, right? Because it has the 3D animation, it's simple, anybody can watch it. And I'm telling you, man, like in 10, 15 years, people are going to yearn for that Sonic design and that Sonic style. And obviously, I hope if they ever revisit one day that, you know, they make it as cool as they can, right? But I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to want that style of Sonic, right? But I do hope that the essence of what makes the series cool always stays. You know, I think that's the most important thing. And I think that's something that has been consistent. I think Sonic is always the cool dude, right? And I think that's what's most important. That's why, like, for example, the 2010 era games are ones that really, not really bother me, but like they like get me. I'm like, ah, damn it, because I'm like, someone's gonna grow up with this and really like this, but this isn't necessarily the reason this character was conceited. You know what I'm saying? I had to say, like, I think Sonic is cool, and as long as Sonic is cool, I don't mind what they do with it. I obviously want everything to be quality. I want everything to be well done, right? But at his core, keep him cool and keep his friends cool, right? And I think the things they're doing right now with the years of each character is important. Like, Sonic Shadow Generations is an important game, right? Especially how they're saying they're going to revisit all the story. That matters, right? Because you have fans like me that want to experience that again in a prime modern way, right? But you're going to have a whole new gen of people that are about to understand why people love Shadow, and that's awesome to me. You know, that's so cool to me, right? And you know, we're gonna have different aspects of people when that game comes out. We're gonna have people that are gonna analyze the levels. We're gonna have people that are gonna try to speedrun those levels. We're gonna have people that are just gonna play those levels, you know, start to finish and say, hey, I like this or I didn't like this. And that's awesome. That's fascinating, right? And that's what I love about Sonic. And I know, you know, in a different world, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I want the series to just grow up with me. I want it to just be catering for me. But like, hey, man, it's important for the younger generation to consume stuff. You know what I mean? Because those are the people that are going to end up, you know, working on these games in the future, right? These are the people that are going to, you know, lock them in one day, and they're gonna be making the next video essays. They're gonna be, you know, the Sonic hype guy. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot more people that pull up as we're seeing this franchise grow right before our eyes. So that's why I always tell people, let it grow. You know, let this series grow, and let's see what happens together. You know, I know some people like to be like, oh, the movies aren't they have too many humans, or this problem with this game. Like, guys, just let's let this flow stay, because we're in a state where people are consuming. What matters most is we are at a time where people want to consume the franchise again. Games are selling well, movies are doing well, and so because of that, we're about to see an influx of new people consume this thing, right? Older people, younger people, and we're gonna see a lot of perceptions and differences. And now, obviously, I hope that every product coming forward is good, right? Because it's not, yeah, I'm not saying I want us to go through that cycle again. This game is good, this game is bad, this game is whatever. This game has some cool aspects, not great. Like, I would love everything to be good, right? But we're at a good precipice right now. It feels like everything is locking in together and we're in a very good place. And that's why it's so important for a game like Sonic Frontiers to do what it's doing, because I feel like it's showing you what the next generation of Sonic can be like. It's gonna be cool music, it's gonna be caring about character writing, and I think a lot of people are gonna grow up and appreciate that, man. Like, we are gonna grow and be like, damn, these characters are interesting, these bosses are interesting, Sonic is interesting, this platforming is cool, right? Like, I think that's what's important, is we're seeing cool music, we're seeing cool movies. We're about to have the craziest marketing cycle of all time with movie 3, and I'm so fascinated to see how everyone reacts to these things. Obviously, I don't really know how kids are consuming Sonic nowadays. Sonic, I really know anybody that's really younger and plays Sonic, but I do, you know, see the internet and I see how people consume things, and I do see a lot of people almost, I feel like Sonic is experiencing the Nintendo effect. If you look at the Nintendo Switch numbers, Nintendo Switch has this thing where the largest demographic is 18 to 24 actually of Switch owners, and I feel like Sonic is seeing that too, right? Where like the largest demographic, to be honest, with Sonic is that age, the people that grew up with this, because again, a lot of younger people are playing, you know, their Fortnites and their Fortnites and their PUBGs and their Battleground, their Apex and their iPad games, but a lot of people are still consuming Sonic and Mario and Nintendo and all this stuff, right? But we're seeing a lot of different younger people lock into other types of series, so it's going to be interesting to see where Sega caters to and how they continue to move forward with the series. But guys, let me know what you all think about the age differences with Sonic. What age differences did you experience? What do you would think is different from how you grew up with something versus how something is perceived today? I don't know, there's a lot to it, so thank you all for watching. You're the best. I'll see you all next time. Peace out.